I was like, "Okay, guys, like, how was your day?" And my son goes, "It was good." I was like, "Awesome." And he's like, "Well, Mama, that's not true." And I'm like, "Oh, no. Okay, bud. What happened?" He's like, "Well, I sniffed my friend's butt." And I was like, "Okay, bud. When?" And he's like, "Just now. I sniffed my friend's butt right before we walked out." And I was like, "Oh, well, what did they say?" And they said, "Ew, that's gross." And then the teacher said I had to apologize. And so I apologized. And then I came out here and I was like, "Great. So glad." And I was like, "Why'd you do that, man? Like, what are you doing? Why are you sniffing butts?" And he was like, "Well, Mama, I just wanted to see if it was stinky." And I was like, you're just like a dog."
How to survive the classroom.
Have you ever wondered what I would say if my mother and my administrators weren't watching every single thing I do on social media? Well, that's exactly what my stand-up show is. And I'm going to be coming to a town near you super soon. You can get tickets at educatorandrea.com/tickets. Hey, teacher besties, welcome to How to Survive the Classroom. You guys. I have stories after this last weekend. I was doing the Teacher's Lounge show with Gasper Randazzo and Philip Lindsay. And this time we went to Richmond, Virginia. I told you guys last episode how excited I was about going and that I was going to get to see some former students and that I was going to also get to see my former administrator. And I did. And it was so much fun. But, I always wondered what it would be like to be on the road with other comedians and like what it might like look like. So I'm just going to tell you guys one story because I obviously of Gasper Phil and I'm the girl on stage. And it's this weird thing because I do feel this pressure because I know that the perception is that female comedians are not as funny as male comedians. And I'm not saying like Gasper and Phil never make me feel that way. And our fans never make me feel that way. But I've heard it so much that I feel like this extra pressure, right? And I'm also very new to doing stand up. So I'm working really, really hard because I want to hold my own, right? I want people to come to the show and I want them to think we're all amazing. I don't want them to be like, well, the boys were good. And then Andrea went up, do you know? You know. And so I've been working really hard on all of that. And the other part of all of this, though, so like there's the on stage stuff. There's we show up to the show, we hang out in the green room, we do all of that. And then there's all of these other dynamics that when you are working with these other people matter a lot more than I thought. So, for example, like the green room hangout time before a show and after a show is so much like hanging out in the teacher's lounge, where like when you're out on stage or in your classroom, like it's not going to matter who these other people are. But if you're going to be stuck in the teacher's lounge with these people, which obviously is a play on the name of our show as well, the teacher's lounge, but it matters so much. And so we've had a bunch of openers and everyone's been really cool. But this last weekend, we had, I think, the wildest opener we have ever had. He is based out of North Carolina. His name is Jerry Patoka. And if you guys ever get a chance to see him perform, he is genuinely one of the most intentionally and unintentionally funny humans I think I've ever met. Like, we were just hanging out with him and we kept on trying to figure out, like, hey, man, are you like, what are you teaching? And he's very Southern, like, he's like a little redneck princess, He's like, yeah, I've been teaching. I do that teaching stuff. And we're like, that's awesome, man. What do you teach? And he's like, mm-hmm. All right, all right. And we're like, what? Like, wait, what? What do you teach? And he's like, yeah, you see, I go and I teach. And we're like, what does that mean? Like, so funny. And we finally eventually did find out that he like teaches career technical education and like he does all sorts like he's preparing students for the real world. But he is so funny on and off stage that it just made the whole green room hang so much fun, which is one of like the joys of doing these shows is getting to meet comedians in different places and like comics are weird, man. Like, cause you never know, even if somebody is really personable on stage, that could just be their on stage presence. And then they get off stage and they're just reading their notes. They're doing like whatever it is. And so you never really know just based off of their content online or their clips what they're going to be like in the green room. But we've been so lucky. Everyone has been super cool. It was just that Jerry was someone who none of us had really worked with before. And he was a wild, wild ride. So if you are in North Carolina and you get a chance to go and see one of his shows, he does a lot of opening, stuff like that. And we might have him open for a couple more Teachers Lounge shows. But he's a gift, honestly. He is an absolute gift. But it's so funny because I am a mom and I am used to, if we are going on a trip, we need things to be very organized and coordinated, right? And so when I go on the trips with these boys, um, I sometimes assume the role of being their mother unintentionally. I don't mean to do this. I'm not trying to infantilize them. They are very big boys and they can take care of themselves. However, they can't, and I am their mother. So the thing is that before we came on the show, like went for the show weekend, I like printed out the itinerary, right? And guys, I'm truly not a type A person. This is a survival tactic for someone who is severely ADHD. And if I don't have this stuff written somewhere accessible, I will lose it and I will be stressed. So this is that's where this came from, right? So it had the agenda of when we have to be at shows because the last 2 weekends we've had shows, we will get to like noon and Gasper's like, "When is our show?" Like, what do you mean when is our show? That's why we came to this state. Like, what does that mean? And then like Phil lost his known traveler number. And so I had to send him his known traveler number. So part of it is also because of that. So I created this very like specific agenda. It had my enterprise rent-a-car information on it. It had what time I had to leave. It had everything, right, on this document. I printed out 3 copies Saturday morning and I brought it to the boys and I was like, "Hey, keep this." So that way you guys can like shut up and stop talking to me about this and asking me these questions that I gave you already, right? And they both made fun of me. They roasted me the whole time. They're like, "Are you leaving us here? Why are you giving us this information?" I was like, "You just don't know like if you're going to need it or not." So I don't know what happened to those papers. But on Sunday, I was cutting it very close with my flight. Like the show ended at 3:30. Killer show in Raleigh. It was so much fun. I think it was one of my best sets. So it killed me that I missed the meet and greet and I had to bolt. But the guys' flights didn't leave till later. And so I was like, okay, like we had some friends that came to the Raleigh show, so they took us to the airport and I allowed Gasper and Phil to return my car. They texted me like I'm taking off, right? And they text me and they say, "Which rental car place was it?" And I try and text them back and I can't because we're up in the air. I try and connect to the Wi-Fi. It connects for a second and I get a bunch of text messages of them asking Enterprise. Is it Enterprise? And like all of these different text messages, I can't respond to any of them. And the fury I feel with the fact that they were given a piece of paper that had that information on it and even had like my traveler information, like it had like the renter agreement on it, like everything. And finally I land and I have a text from Phil that says like he looked up the VIN number and like did all of this workaround because the ding dong didn't look at the paper I gave him. I'm like, listen, this is why. This is why I have to be their mother. And one of them forgot deodorant. You guys, so what it is like being on tour is a little bit like traveling with my children is the reality of it. So if we're coming to a show in your area, you guys need to come. We've got a show in late October in Texas. We're going to be in Houston. We're going to be in Dallas. And then I can't remember, we're going to be in November. So you guys should check at teachersloungelive.com. Or if you're looking to see where I'm going to be individually, you can go to educatorandrea.com/tickets because I'm also going to be doing a couple, and that has all the dates on it and all the tickets and stuff. But yeah, it's a wild ride, guys. It's very fun, but I I could have absolutely throttled them if I wasn't already an airplane ride away from them when they texted and asked where my rental car was for. Okay, the other thing that came across like my life recently was this video of a mom. She was getting pissed off at the teacher who teaches her kindergartner. So let's watch this video that she like put out there into the world.
I have a bone to pick with kindergarten moms. Yesterday we went to pick up my new kindergartner, my COVID baby, from his new school. And when I got there to pick him up, he said, "Mom, I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. Do you have a water bottle?" And I always bring extra water. So I said, "Yes, of course." He went to drink the water and was dying of thirst. He said, "Mom, I haven't had water all day." And I was so disgusted. We live in Arizona. It's 116 degrees outside. The cars said 122 degrees, and my son did not know that his water bottle was in the side pocket of his backpack the entire day. It gets better. He's 5 years old, okay? He has not had experience going to many preschools, and yes, that's my fault. I've kept him with me. That's just my personal preference. He was my COVID baby. I didn't want to let him go. So he's learning. He's trying all these things for the first time. And when I went to drop him off for school yesterday, I was advised by the teacher that parents were not allowed in the class, and I get that. If you're a teacher, I understand. You have a schedule. You need to get a routine going with all of these kids and students. I understand. But for us mamas that are the hovering mamas, I wanted to make sure that he was at his desk, that he had everything he needed, and this is why. Because when I picked him up from school, he said he only had one sip of water from the water fountain the entire day. I also got a picture from the teacher showing the kids in class and doing great artwork and studies and whatever they're doing in their projects. And every student at his desk had a water bottle except for my son. My son's water bottle was in the side pocket of his backpack. I had told him in the morning, but again, he's 5 years old. They're learning, they're growing, they're trying to adjust to these new ways of life. They need help and they need guidance. So apparently the teacher did not show him his water bottle in the side pocket of his backpack and said it's their responsibility. Well, I find that really disturbing that my son was not guided to find his water bottle, know where it is, know that he had water, even though mom did her part. I feel like the teacher did not do hers. I'm really upset. I don't know what to do. I did address this with the school. I kept him home from school today because of the situation, and I'm lost for words. As you all know, dehydration can wreak tons of havoc, especially on younger children.
There's so many levels of a lack of self-awareness in this video. Number one, Mama, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, okay? I have a COVID baby as well. He also just started kindergarten, right? And if he came home and he said, Mama, even if we lived in a very hot place, right? And he said, I didn't drink water all day. And I said, baby, I put your water bottle in there. He said, yeah, I didn't ask for it. I would be like, hey, ding dong, ask for your water bottle. Like, you're like the audacity of sitting there and blaming this teacher, who, by the way, is obviously going above and beyond. If she took a picture of the kindergarten class to send to all the parents on day one, that is going above and beyond in my opinion. Like, taking the extra step, knowing that you teach kindergartners, knowing that you have parents that are going to be extra worried, all of that, to take a picture and then post it and share and be like, hey, your kids are doing great. And I'm sorry, did you receive that photo and then you didn't call and say, my kid doesn't have a water bottle? That's weird. It's almost like it wouldn't have even occurred to you. It is so entitled and absolutely self-absorbed to think that the teacher should have to do that level of, like, mama, homeschooling exists, and maybe that's a better choice for you if you insist on having your child be treated like a literal infant as they grow into older ages. Like, I'm sorry, I am so very annoyed by, like, parents who act like that. Like, she even called herself, like, what, a hovering, also known as a helicopter parent? Like, it and then she, like, kept her child home the next day. That is insane behavior. That's insane. Like, you are acting, like, wild for that. That is a wild thing to do. I 100% understand how hard it is when we let our babies go to school, and they're so sweet, and they're so young, but reality check, if my kid came home and said, "I didn't drink water even though I had a water bottle, and I also didn't ask the teacher." Like, the teacher didn't say no. The teacher just didn't go around and force water into the mouths of the kids. Like, just absolutely wild behavior. And, like, those interactions are yet another reason why elementary teaching would never be for me, because I know my face would just, it would do something. It would do something if I had a parent that called me and said, I sent my kid with a water bottle and they didn't ask for it. And I would be like, cool, then tell your kid it's time to learn to speak up. It's time to learn to actually say something if they have a physical need. It almost feels like that's something that you as a parent should be doing, that it's not the teacher's job to teach every single skill in life. So, I don't know. That just really, like, that, it's rare that I see something like that and it really makes me mad. And that one really made me mad because I also have a kindergartner and I would never have the audacity to be like, I'm sorry, my child was born in the midst of a pandemic, therefore they can't speak up and say I need water. Like, grow up. All right. On that note, let's go ahead and listen to let's go ahead and listen to the first voice memo that you guys sent in this week.
Student asked me if I could teach him cursive. I was like, well, I am a social studies teacher, but sure, why not? Excited he wanted to learn something new. Turns out he just wanted to be able to forge notes from his parents.
I would not have even thought that either, honestly. Like I don't think that would be my immediate thought, but I guess yeah, like if kids like and I will say I feel like most places are now starting to teach cursive a little bit more. I know at my daughter's school they do, but in like upper elementary they're still working on just regular handwriting right now. But I wouldn't have even thought about that. I'm trying to think if I ever forged my parents' signature. I don't think I did because my parents very much instilled a sense of integrity in me at a very young age. And it's so funny because I have this crystal clear image in my mind of I can't remember what it was I lied to my dad about, but he took me into like one of the rooms in our house and he had put together all of these little wooden blocks. And on these wooden blocks he had like had like the base of a tower, and then he explained to us like when you tell the truth, and he placed another block on the tower. He's like it makes the tower of trust with people who love you grow stronger and taller. And he's doing all of this. He's like, when you told me this, and he added something to the tower, and when you told me this, and he added something to the tower. He's like, "If you lie," and he took his hand and he swiped the tower and the blocks just went flying, and he's like, "That's what lying does to your relationships, and now I don't know if I can trust you." And I don't know how old I was, probably like 5 or 6, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again." And I will say I am honest to a fault. That is probably one of those things that, stuck in my mind the most is that, like, I might get in trouble for a lot of different things, but I'm not gonna lie about it. Like, I'm gonna come clean because of that moment in that little tower and everything. So after that, I feel like there would still be some lies by omission. Like, I think there was one time in, like, 3rd or 4th grade that I did not do well in school, and, of course, all the comments in in the thing were "Won't sit still, talks too much in class." And so I took that report card and I, like, hid it, and then, everybody else's report cards came though, and I was like, "That's crazy that none of these report cards came, like, that's so crazy." And, my mom, I will never forget, she was like, "Andrea, did your report card come?" And I'm like, I haven't seen it today." And she's like, "But did it come though?" And I was like, she's like, "It did." And I was like, she's like, "Go get it." And I was like, "Okay." And I brought it to her and I got in all kinds of trouble for that one too. So I was like, definitely learned lessons in stages on that, but yeah. I mean, I guess maybe we probably should be a little bit wary of that since now we're gonna be teaching kids to cursive again. Although I don't know that many adults that actually sign their names full words. Like, most of the time like, mine is like a big A and an F, and it's like scribble, scribble. So, maybe we just need to teach them how to, like, well, I guess we don't wanna teach them to forge signatures, never mind. No, like, we don't need to teach them to do that at all. So, all right, let's go ahead and listen to the second voice memo sent in this week.
I am a first grade teacher, and today after school, I ran into a colleague whose granddaughter is in my class, and she was really excited to see me and talk to me. She wanted to hear whether or not it was true that I got engaged. She hadn't heard that around school, but the kids in my first grade class had been talking to each other and talking to their families about how I got a new ring, and they assumed it was an engagement ring. It wasn't. It was from Old Navy.
I love it so much. The way that we end up hearing things, like the filter of like what happened at school versus like what they say happened at school, especially in elementary, is so funny to me. Like, and I feel like this year especially I haven't been called a lot about my son's behavior, and my son has inherited my passion for integrity. I haven't even had to do the block thing yet, but we'll see. He got in the car yesterday and I was like, "Okay, guys, like, how was your day?" And my son goes, "It was good." I was like, "Awesome." And he's like, "Well, Mama, that's not true. And I'm like, oh no. Okay, bud, what happened? Like, I'm like bracing myself. Like, did he get sent to the principal? Something like that. And he's like, well, I sniffed my friend's butt. And I was like, okay, got it. Okay, bud. Um, when? And he's like, just now, just before like when they were waiting to leave for the day. He's like, I sniffed my friend's butt right before we walked out. And I was like, oh, well, what did they say? And they said, ew, that's gross. And then the teacher said I had to apologize. And so I apologized. And then I came out here and I was like, great. So glad. And I was like, why'd you do that, man? Like, what are you doing? Why are you sniffing butts? And he was like, well, mama, I just wanted to see if it was stinky. And I was like, you're just like a dog. Like, it just, like little humans, especially early elementary, they are like little drunk people, right? Like, and the older they get, the more they become like, like more sober as they age. Well, some of them do. But like the things that he does remind me so much of what, friends who go out and drink way too much and you're just like, what are you doing? And they're like, I don't know. I wanted to see if they stank. They didn't. And I said sorry. So all good. It just is absolutely wild. And I always try and like reach out to the teachers if I hear something crazy. Like there was a couple weeks ago, my son came home and this is the first year his teacher has taught kindergarten. And as previously established, I am in awe of teachers that teach like elementary, especially early elementary, because you might have to deal with some hovering parents. And he came home and he's like, we had fun Friday today. I was like, cool. How'd it go? And he's like, good. We did whatever we wanted. She said we couldn't leave, but that we could do whatever we want as long as we didn't talk to her. And I just started cracking up because I'm like, yeah, I bet. I bet she must have had a day at that point. Like Friday with a bunch of kindergartners and they're all just like bouncing off the walls, being chaotic. I can so imagine that moment of being like, you know what? I don't care. Stay in the room, don't hurt each other, and don't talk to me. Yeah, I didn't even have to follow up with the teacher on that one because I'm just like, that's fair enough. Yeah. Like if you got to do what you got to do, girl. I get it. Because I've been around my kids and I know that I've said that to my kids. Like you don't leave the yard and stop talking to me so I can get my work done. Like we have all been on that boat, unfortunately. All right. Also, I was chit-chatting with some special education teachers recently, and we were talking about different resources and all of that. And so I went specifically to find resources for special education teachers and teachers who have students with IEPs and 504s in their classroom, which is like all of us. So I will share that with you when we come back. And I'm also going to share the hill that I will die on. So we will be right back. All right, teacher besties, welcome back. So, the resource I wanted to share with you guys today is called do2learn.com. So, it's do and then the number 2 and then learn.com. And I'm going to pre-warn you, it does feel like something someone put together when they first learned HTML. Like no one's using like a nice Squarespace template on this website. However, it is free. And it has a bunch of different resources. And if you have someone with special needs who is an adult in your life and they need help communicating, it has stuff for that too. And they have a whole part that is there's a new teacher handbook, there's a teacher toolbox, there's stuff about social skills and an emotion color wheel, all of that kind of stuff. So I absolutely love it. I was searching for a really long time because one of the things I think is so impactful and impressive that special education teachers do is they will teach skills to special education students that many of us just take for granted. So a great example of this is being able to read facial expressions. And that's something that people have talked about a lot, especially if you're on the autism spectrum. Sometimes you can't read people's emotions in a way that a lot of us could just like intuitively be able to know what different facial expressions mean when you see them. And so on this website, it has like different pictures of different facial expressions, and then it has the matching emotion underneath it. And so that's one of the ways that I've seen special education teachers kind of teach students how to read emotions, because like that's the level that some of these teachers are working with their kids. And think about how hard it would be to navigate life if you genuinely couldn't understand that piece of human interaction. I can't remember what percentage it is that they've said that like how much of conversation or how much of communication is nonverbal. It's like the facial expression, it's the tone, it's like not the actual words, it's everything else around it, right? And how challenging it would be to get through life if that stuff wasn't something you could intuitively feel. That would be so challenging. So that is something that I think is absolutely incredible that special education teachers do. And on this website, they have a bunch of resources for that. They have different picture cards for different types of activities. And they have like whole charts they've got things like medication lists, weekly medication charts, medical contacts, medical log. So like things just for trying to live your life if you have somebody in your life who is special needs or you are suddenly taking over the care of someone, and all of these resources are free. Um it also has like a pain level chart with like pictures of different levels of pain, and like it's a lot of really cool free resources. It could also be incredibly helpful if you have someone you're caring for who has dementia and can't communicate because of that. So there's just a bunch of stuff on there, social skills, behavior management, job tips, all sorts of stuff like that. So highly recommend that. Again, it's do2learn.com. And I have no like association with the website or the people who put it together or any of that stuff. It was just a resource I think is going to be incredibly helpful for those of you who are in a place where you're needing to use stuff like that. So, all right. Now, and I think this is because I was just in the South. Okay. I'm gonna just say that ahead of time. The hill I'm gonna die on is that you can get away with the most horrifying things coming out of your mouth if you say "bless your heart" right after it. Or I feel like "bless your heart" is like the Southern way of doing it. Since I was just in North Carolina, I was feeling that energy, right? They're like just like "bless your heart," right? And then the other one is "I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this." That's like the Gen Z millennial way of like "I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this." You make terrible choices and you're going to have to stop doing that, right? I do that to our teacher bestie, Denver, all the time. You know, I'll talk to her. I'll be like, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. Make better choices. I love you. Don't be dumb, right? And that's true friendship. That's what it's about. True friendship is holding their hand when you tell them the cold, hard truth that they need to make better choices, you know, if that makes sense. I, and this is now moving on from the hill that I died on, but an example of what happens if you don't do that. I was at work and I came across somebody who I don't know super well. And I was wearing jeans and Nikes and a sweatshirt, like my Indiana State sweatshirt. And so I was dressed pretty casually, which I always am when I am teaching at the university because it's a college I don't know. Like I'm sure there are some professors who dress very fancy. I am just not one of them. I'm preparing future teachers. It's not my vibe. I'm usually wearing jeans that are like nice with no holes in them and some sort of ISU merch, right? And this person came up to me and said, "Oh, did you teach today?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And they were like, "Oh, well, you're just like really casually." And I pointed to my colleague who was standing there, who was also wearing jeans and sneakers and an ISU shirt. Um, and she was like, "Well, yeah, but he's tenured." So, and I was like, ah, the shade, the shade is real. But I honestly think if she had been like, "Bless your heart, you're dressed awful casual for someone who doesn't have tenure yet." And I'm like, "Girl, get out of here." People are crazy. All right. On that note, guys, I am going to wrap it up. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you're doing wonderful things and that, it's October now. So things are getting close to Halloween. And I feel like there's a weird energy in the halls when we get into fall and the weather starts cooling off and the students start thinking about Halloween costumes and all of that. I actually kind of love the idea. If you guys could send me pictures of your um, Halloween costumes that you guys are doing, especially if you have a group of teacher besties and you guys did a matching Halloween costume. Oh my gosh. I will actually, you know what? For inspiration, I'm gonna share some of the photos that I use because when my teacher group and I would have Halloween, we would always dress to match. So I will make sure and share with my producers so they can share the photos with you guys right now. But yeah, good times. It's fun. Like go do something fun this week. Go do something fun. Do something that makes you happy and that is not for anybody but for you. On that note, we are going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you again so much for being here. If you have thoughts about what we talked about today, you can contact us at Andrea@human-content.com or on TikTok or Instagram at Educator Andrea, or you can contact the whole Human Content Podcast family at Human Content Pods. And thank you so much to those of you guys who have left reviews. If you haven't yet, please do. It helps everybody else find this wonderful place that we like to hang out. And if you want to catch the entire full video episodes, they're up every week on YouTube at Educator Andrea. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Andrea Forkham. Our executive producers are Andrew Forkham, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Our engineer is Jason Fortizo. Our music is by Omer Ben-Zvi. Our recording location is the Indiana State by College of Education. To learn more about How to Survive the Classroom's program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission, verification, and licensing terms, you can go to podcasterandrea.com. How to Survive the Classroom is a human content production.
How to survive the classroom.
Thank you so much for watching. Want more of How to Survive the Classroom? You can watch more episodes right now. Just click on that little box over there. You see it? And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Okay, bye.